Hi, Humaira. Here we are on the opening day of Searching for Home here at the Center for Art in Wood. And I thought we could start our conversation by talking a little bit, first of all, who you are and why we're sitting here in the gallery with your work today.
My name is Humaira Abid. This is my show, which is around the theme of refugees and immigration and moving from one place to another and finding home again. My primary mediums are wood and miniature painting, and there are 10 installations in this show.
And how did you get your start as an artist?
I went to art school against the wishes of my family. They didn't want me to become an artist. And then I decided to go. This was something I felt was my calling. I went to art school and then everybody started warning me not to take sculpture as a major because it's physically challenging, especially for women. So I got so many warnings. I had to see what's so tough about it. I took it as a challenge. And when I was in sculpture department, then I didn't see anyone working really in wood, and not any woman working in wood. And wood is very common in Pakistan. Wood carving, especially for the purpose of furniture making and construction. And I was interested in that medium because also it's a male-dominated medium, and what I saw was always a male point of view. And I'm interested in women issues, stereotypes, taboos, and I thought, okay, what better medium than a male-dominated medium to talk about women issues? So that was my reason for starting to work in that medium, and then I continue to be passionate about it.
And I mean, in fact, miniature painting is also a male-dominated medium historically.
Yes, historically, yes, but now there are more women artists working in that medium. But yes, and miniature painting was mainly used for book illustration.
Yes.
So yes, miniature painting as well as wood sculpture was considered more like a craft or mediums of craft than art. And I thought I could do something new with them and push the boundaries. So I've been working towards this direction for many years. And this is the body of work that I'm really proud of.
So how do you use both of those mediums to say and convey your message?
So when I decided to take sculpture and miniature painting, and initially when I was working in both mediums, a lot of people thought I was crazy because they are so different from each other. I could never blend them together or do something with them. But I continued to be passionate about both mediums. And I was, in initial years, I was doing them separately. But after a few years, I thought when I'm passionate about both mediums, I should try to blend them. So I started, especially in 2007, I went to India. That's when I learned about, I'm interested in duality of meaning as well. And I learned a word, istari, which in India used for women and wives. And in Pakistan, we used it for smoothing iron. So I decided to use the duality of meaning. And that was the first time I combined sculpture and miniature, carved smoothing irons out of wood and made miniature paintings based on women issues and placed on the flat side. And I got a really good response then, and people really saw it was possible. There was a possibility. Otherwise, it seemed impossible to a lot of people. So that opened doors for me, but it took me a few years to really figure out a successful way to keep blending them in installation-based work. And I think this is a good example where I have done that.
Yes, definitely. Tell me a little bit about your process in the material of wood and why it continues to be a strong part of your body of work.
My process is mainly when I have an idea. I spend a lot of time developing my ideas, and then often my reference materials or images are found objects that you see in life. So I go find the right kind or size that I need as a reference. And then I do a lot of sketching. I do my research at that time, but once I figure out what I'm going to do, that's when I go to buy my material. So I've made this commitment to myself. I'm never going to gather too many tools or too much material because then I don't want the material to tell me what to do, but I want my material to listen to me what I want it to do. So that's when I go by my material, the type of wood, what color of wood, and the size, dimensions. Then I know a little more, and that's how I start working in wood.
And you work primarily, not exclusively, but primarily in pine and mahogany wood.
I've used mostly pine and mahogany, but I have worked in other woods too, tulip, wangi, and many African European woods. But yes, one reason is pine and mahogany are very easily available in Pakistan. I still have a studio in Pakistan. And they say a lot being light and dark, soft and hardwood. So, yes.
And you can see that in many of the works in the exhibition really make use of that contrasting tone between the woods.
Yes, yes, yeah. I love to use the contrast of color as well as how I use them. They have different characteristics, so they complement different kind of ideas.
Yeah. And that's something you continue to do going forward, even though in the most recent body of work here in the show, you've actually painted and covered the wood in its original natural tone completely.
Yes, so I often use wood in its natural color, but there are some times when I have used wood stains, red and black mostly, to say something, to express my idea even more. So yes, so the rear view mirrors are actually carved and then stained. So if you get very close, you can see grains still. But yes, for the purpose of my concept and conveyed my message.
Sure, sure. Which is always taking center stage in your work, of course.
Yes,
it's really about the idea and the stories with regard to searching for home. It's the stories you're trying to tell.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, and what does wood do for those stories?
I think wood is not just a male-dominated medium or a challenging medium but I think it complements my concepts. It adds that human-like quality to otherwise which may look like objects, which for me are symbols to tell stories. So I think wood adds that element, like a living quality to them. And also bring people closer. They are surprising, give people element of surprise when they see actual object carved to all the details, but they can see it's wood, but they kept thinking it in their mind, is it really wood, is it an object? So bring them closer to the work and make them think more, make them spend more time with the work.
Yeah. So in Searching for Home, we've focused on one specific story, and that is the worldwide refugee crisis. What led you to exploring this really difficult but relevant in our time topic?
My parents were refugees. They moved from India to Pakistan as kids at the time of partition, 1947. So I grew up hearing stories of migration, challenges and difficulties. And when I was growing up, I saw a lot of refugees around me because Pakistan until 2013 was on top of the list for taking maximum number of refugees. It still is in top 5. We have mostly refugees from Afghanistan and some other neighboring countries too. So I saw them struggling, trying to make their home again, and then about 12 years ago I moved to US. Although this was out of choice, but still I felt connected to the concept of or the challenges of migration. So I remember when I moved here, and after a few years I started feeling like this was my home. A lot of people, whenever I visited Pakistan, would ask me, "Oh, you are going back home." So for them, probably my home was where I was born. So this started a dialogue in my mind. Is it a home, a place where you're born, or is it a place where you feel you belong? And that triggered this conversation and this show.
What's next for you?
I continue to be passionate about women issues, the situation in the world. I think, which is sad too, the issue of not just refugees but women issues are very relevant still, ongoing. So I want to continue the conversation, keep my work relevant, bring issues through my work. Probably I hope that I can make people think and make them feel that they want to do something and be part of the change.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about your use of objects, specific objects, such as ants or shoes or pacifiers. Breast pumps have come up a little bit in your work repeatedly. And you referred earlier to your use of objects as a kind of symbols, and previously we used the word lexicon to talk about it because those shapes appear over and over and over in your work. Could you talk a little bit about that vocabulary of shapes?
So I was always interested in objects. To me, objects can tell a story. So it's like I want to make my audience look at the objects, then learn about the concept, and then look at it again. And I mean, it has often happened that people say, now I cannot look at the object the same way after learning the concept behind it or the story behind it. Like, for example, a pacifier is not just a pacifier for me. It represents not just babies and small kids, but also innocence. So there are different reasons for using different objects, saying something else. Also how they are used in different installations.
So ants appear throughout the exhibition in various installations, and they trail their way through the works. Yeah. What is the value of ants to you?
I use ants. My initial reason was not just they are known for hardworking nature, and for migrating in groups, which is relevant to this concept, but also to make people think. Because I have everyday objects, when I have ants around them, I mean, it makes people think, why there are ants? And so often they come and ask me or whoever is there about the concept, and it starts a conversation. So my main aim is to start a conversation in people's mind and also with other people and make them think.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this